Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Mercury Theater and star of these broadcasts, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. It was near the end of October. Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crosley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Raymond Raquello leads off with La Comparsita. With all our work shown, what do you say? What do you say? Gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Raymond Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
We open on Sundays. I bring back LaFace Records, Freaknik, Kilo Ali, Luke. I go to JR Crickets, some Spelman girls with big booties. I reopen Sidetrack, strippers would get Mother's Day off, and I'd have my own Gangsta Girls mixtape.
The ever-popular Stardust, Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
In that beat we trust. Guilty is forever. DJ Drummer is forever. Brazil. Yeah. Y'all ready? I ain't no snitch.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with the noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra.
Yeah. Stone Mountain. He's still giving you niggas a free mixtape. Why, Gambino? Why, young guy? Why so generous? I ain't no snitch. Cops, I don't trust him. I ain't no bitch. All I do is run him. Nigga, I was stunting.
We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides the ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. That red disk swimming in the blue sea, transverse stripes across the disk, quite distant now because Mars happens to be point nearest to Earth in opposition, as we call it.
What do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips, although that popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Scientists, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
I'd say the chance against is 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Mr. Phillips, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from the Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the Natural History Museum, New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. we have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene. And we'll have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music.
You go back to her, I go back to us. I love you much. It's not enough. You love blow and I love pole.
We take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down. But I can see the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor. At least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. Has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say, what's the diameter of this?
About
30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. It's curious. Spectators now are pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. They're getting in front of my line of vision. Would you mind standing one side, please? While they're pushing the crowd back. Here's Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmot, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? Step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmot.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder, please.
Pardon me?
Louder, please, closer.
Yes. I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsy. That professor fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half chosen and half...
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio, kind of halfway.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then you saw something.
Well, not first off. I heard something.
And what did you hear?
A hissing sound like this. Kind of like a 4th of July rocket.
Yes, then what?
I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was asleep and dreaming.
Yes?
I seen a kind of greenish streak and then zingo. Something smacked the ground, knocked me clear out of my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmot?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you want me to
No,
talk
that's
some
quite
more?
all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in a field in back of us, and the police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's no use. They're breaking right through. The car's headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. Now, some of the more daring souls now are venturing near the edge. The silhouettes stand out against the metal shield. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. Now, the policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please. Do you hear it? It's a curious humming sound that seems to come from inside the object. Right. I'll move the microphone nearer. Here. Now, we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Professor Pearson?
Yes, Mr. Phillips.
Can you tell us the meaning of that scraping noise inside the thing?
Possibly the unequal cooling of the surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial, not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in the meteorite. The thing is smooth, and as you can see, has a cylindrical shape.
You can see it's cylindrical
Just a minute.
shape.
Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw, and the thing must be hollow. He's moving! Keep those men back! Keep back there! Keep those idiots back! Take off! The top's loose! Go, man! Stand back! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone calling someone or something. I can see turning out of that black hole through luminous discs. The eyes, it might be a face, might be almost... Good heavens, something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one, and another one, and another one. They look like tentacles to me. Oh, yeah, I can see the thing's body now. It's large, and as large as a bear. It glistens like wet leather, but that face, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black, and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is kind of V-shaped with saliva dripping from its rimless lips. It seemed to... Oh, quiver and pulsate, and the monster or whatever it is can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. They've seen plenty. The most extraordinary experience, ladies and gentlemen. I can't find words. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, Marion. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. The whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. we have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
The creatures of the Grover Mill, I can give you no authoritative information either of this nature or the origin or purpose here on Earth of the distinctive instruments. I have ventured some conjectural explanation for what, of better term, I shall refer to mysterious weapons as a heat ray. If it's no too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far advanced of our own, it's my guess that these are some creatures beyond our own comprehension. And to my knowledge, they have no discernible composition, much as a mirror of whatnot. They are indescribable to say the very least.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in the Trenton Hospital. Now here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. The Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia, stationed outside of Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit, and there is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the state militia of Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In view of the gravity of the situation, and believing that radio has a responsibility to serve in the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry, without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. The things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. Looks almost like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River, probably fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust and it'll all be over. Oh, wait a minute, I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmot Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. A tub, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs, actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of the science and evidence of our eyes led to the inexcusable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are in the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight in Grover's mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered in an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against a single fighting machine of the invading forces from Mars. 129 survivors, their rest strewn over the battle area of the Grover's Field to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of the monster, or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn and services from New York to Philadelphia discontinued except through the center. Allenwood and Phoenixville Highway to the north, south, and west are clogged to fraction human traffic. Police and army services are unavailable to control the mad fight. By morning, the fugitives have swelled in Philadelphia, Camden, Trenton. It's estimated to twice the normal population. At this time, martial law prevails through New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. We take you now to Washington for a special broadcast on Emergency National to the Secretary of Interior.
At this time, we take you to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency.
I fucking said that.
The Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, and we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have
just heard the Secretary of Interior speaking from Washington. Bulletins too numerous to read piling up in the studio here. For the record, we do not entirely believe in the faith of the Secretary of Interior. Regardless, we shall prevail in this time of crisis. Here's a special bulletin from New York. Cables received from English, French, and scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on our planet Mars. Majority voice opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. Attempts made to locate Professor Princeton, who has observed Martians at close ranges, fears he has lost his life by the heat ray. Although advancing at express train speed, invaders pick up their way carefully. They seem to be making conscious effort to avoid destruction of cities and countrysides. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Here's a bulletin from Baconsridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. Army's field pieces are proceeding from New York to blow up the second invading unit before a cylinder can be opened and fighting machine rigged. They're taking up position in the houses and trees in their evident haste to form the junction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. Here's a bulletin from Winstonfield, Long Island. Fleet of Army boarders carrying... Oh, no, James, not another one. There's so many. There's so many cylinders. Ladies and gentlemen, we've run special wire for artillery lines on adjacent villages to give you a direct report in the zone of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to battery of the 22nd Army Artillery located in Washington Mountains.
Range 32 meters.
32 meters.
Projection 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire.
140 yards to the right, sir.
Shift range 31 meters.
31 meters.
1 meters.
Projection 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire.
Hit, sir. We got the tripod of one of them. They've stopped. The others are trying to repair it.
The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range. Shift 50, 30 meters. 30 meters. Projection 27 degrees. 27 degrees.
Fire!
Can't see the shell lamp, sir. Letting off a smoke.
What is it?
Black smoke, sir. Moving this way. Lying close to the ground. Moving fast.
Put on gas mask. Get ready to fire. Shift to 24 meters. 24 meters. Projection 24 degrees. 24 degrees. Fire.
Still can't see, sir. Smoke's coming nearer.
Get the range.
50 feet. Meters.
23 meters.
23 meters. Protection 22 degrees.
22 degrees.
Bombing plane, Gate 43.
New Jersey, Lieutenant Vogt, commanding 8 bombers, reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Vogt reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines now in sight. Reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder. 6 altogether. 1 machine partially crippled. Believed hit by shell from Army gun in Watchung Mountains. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. The machines are close together now, and we're ready to attack. Planes circling, ready to strike. 1,000 yards and we'll be over the first. $800 yards. $600. $400. 200. There they go. The giant arm raised. Green flash. They're spraying us with flame. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release bombs. Only one thing left. Drop on them, plane and all. We're diving on the first one. Now the engine's gone. 8.
Theater on the air.
As I sit down on notepads and paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in an empty house near Grover's Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened here before the arrival of the monstrous creatures in the world now seem to be part of another life. Life that has no continuity of present, further existence of lonely derelict with pencils these words on the back of it, astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at the blackened hands, my torn shoes, my tattered clothes, and I try to connect them with the professor who lives at Princeton, who on that night, October 30th, glimpsed through the telescope of an orange splash in the light of a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I tell myself, shall I preserve But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. I mind folly in bread and kitchen, and the orange not too spoiled to swallow. I keep watch at the window. From time to time, I catch a sight of a Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in this black coil, but at length there is a hissing sound, and I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam, as if to dissip the smoke. I watch in the corner as his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fell asleep. It's morning. Morning. Sun streams in the window. The black cloud of gas is lifted. The scorched meadows in the north look as though a black snowstorm has passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to the road. No traffic. Here and there a wrecked car, baggage overturned, blackened skeleton. I push on north. For some reason, I feel a safer trailing venture from the house, and I keep a careful watch. I've seen the Martians, fed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of the trees, I'm ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I come to a chestnut tree. October chestnuts are ripe. I fill my pockets. I must keep alive. 2 days and I wander in a vague northern direction through an desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature, a small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe in a moment the animal I shared the same land like a lighthouse deserted by sea. Astride and silent reaches a weathercock. The arrow points north. Next day I come to a city vaguely familiar in its contours and its description of the city I once knew. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouched in the doorway. A man? No. Something else. What could it be? Some creature? I'm not sure. As I approach further, the being begins to run away, as if frightened by my features. I push forward and forward and forward, deciphering what is it that is in front of my gaze. Another Martian, another squirrel, a human being. I push further. Footprints, they resemble man, but too big to be. I see the remains of a baby, its skeleton desecrated, clothing torn to pieces, a carriage. There's a baby toy inside. I look at it. It's dusty and moldy, as if from 300 years ago. I look over again. I keep following the creature. I follow it to a lair. It's crouching now. I walk further. It stands up. It's a man. It's a tall man. He carries a big knife. He approaches me. I approach him. He looks at me in the eyes.
From many places. A long time ago from Princeton.
Princeton? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. There's no food here. This is my country. All this end of town down the river. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
What was that? Did you hear something just then?
Only a bird. A bird. A live bird.
A live bird.
Yeah.
A live bird.
You get to know that birds have shadows these days. Say, we're in the open here. Let's crawl in this doorway here and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
No. They're going over to New York. Night, the sky's alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Fly.
Well, it's all over with humanity.
Two of us left.
They got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? Your uniform.
What's left of it. I was in the militia. National Guard. That's good. There wasn't any war. Any more than there's war between men and ants.
Yeah.
And we're eatable ants. I found that out. What will they do with us?
Right now, we're caught as we're wanted. A Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run. But they won't keep on doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic, like keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun?
All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet. Bothering them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. No, instead of our rushing around blind, we gotta fix ourselves up. Fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress.
But if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. If it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
And what is there left?
I want to live. Yeah, and so do you. We're not going to be exterminated. And I don't mean to be caught either. Tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men as men, we're finished. We don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we got a chance. And we've got to live and keep free while we learn, see? I've thought it all out, see?
Tell me the rest.
That's what it got to be. That's why I watched you. Watched you. All those little office workers that used to live in these houses, they be no good. They haven't any stuff in them. They used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running to catch their commuter's train in the morning, afraid they'd get canned if they didn't. Running back at night, afraid they wouldn't be in time for dinner. Lives insured and a little invested in case of accidents. Yeah, and on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. Well, the Martians, they'll be a godsend for those guys. Nice roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Yeah, after a week or so of chasing around the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought all out, haven't you?
That isn't all. These Martians are going to make pets of some of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows, get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. Yeah, and some maybe, they'll train to hunt us.
No, that's impossible. No human being.
There's men who do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me, by...
In the meantime, you and I, others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
Like us.
Where are we to live? Where do we live, huh, stranger? Where do we live when the Martians rule the Earth?
We live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, there are miles and miles of them. The main ones, they're big enough for anybody. Then there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, huh? We'll get a bunch of strong men together. No weaklings. That rubbish, out. Okay?
And you meant me to go.
Give you a chance, didn't I?
We won't quarrel about that. Go on.
We gotta make safe places for us to stay in, see? Get all the books we can. Science books. That's where men like you come in, see? We raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. May not be so much we have to learn before... Listen, just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays right and left. Not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But men. Men who've learned the way how. May even be in our time. Gee. Imagine having one of them lovely things with a heat ray wide and free. We'd turn it on Martians. We'd turn it on men. We'd bring everybody down on their knees.
That's your plan? That's your plan?
You, me,
few more of us. We'd own the world.
I see.
Hey, what's the matter? Where are you going?
Not to your world. Goodbye, stranger. After parting with the artilleryman, I came to the last stop on the Holland Channel. I entered the silent tube anxiously to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up to Canal Street. I reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder and several bodies and an evil, ominous smell from the grindings of the cellars of some houses. I wandered up through the 30s and the 40s. I stood alone on Times Square. I caught sight of a lean dog running low on 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in its jaws and a pack of starving mongrels at its heels. He made a wide circle around me, as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. I walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shadow windows, displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks, past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark, past the shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested lone of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of 1939 model cars in a showroom facing empty streets. From over on top of General Motors building, I watched a flock of birds, a blackbird circling the sky. I hurried on. Suddenly I caught sight of a hood of a Martian machine standing somewhere in the middle of the General Motors building, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea, I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle into the park. I climbed a small hill above the pond on 16th Street. From there I could see it standing in a silent row along the mall, 19 of those great metal titans, their claws empty, their great steel arms hanging lifelessly by their sides. I looked in vain from the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly my eyes were attracted to an immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there, before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians, with the hungry birds pecking and tearing down shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in the laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putative and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared, slain, after all man's defenses had failed, by the humblest thing that God, in his wisdom, put upon his earth. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that all through the deep of space no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further, dim and wonderful in this vision. I have seen things that have only been conjured up in a life of spreading minds from this little speed of solar system throughout inanimate vastness and spiral space. But this is a remote dream. It may be the destruction of the Martians as the only reprieve. To them, and not to us, is a future ordained perhaps. Strange it is now seems to sit in a peaceful study at Princeton, writing down in this last chapter of the record begun as a deserted farm in Grover's Mill. Strange to see from my windows the university spires, dim and blue, in an orange haze. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green where the new spring's grass heals. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the disassembled parts of Martian machines are kept on public view. Strange when I recall them when I first saw, bright and clean, hard and silent, under the dawn of the last great day.
Their unnerving temperament, attention. What could a lowly peasant being like myself offer? A perfect, pleasant savior of humanity, redeemer of us sickly, sinning hillbillies. Attention. Just one more resounding stab at all the others. You've almost blown your cover, but your tracks don't stick. One more bottle should do the trick, discreetly cleansing the remnants of every disdainful quip. We found no escape route, but I know you well enough to hate you now. It's too bad you haven't.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance
and as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
That was my rendition of the War of the Worlds broadcast from 1938. It was an idea I had, and I terribly butchered it in my attempt to get rid of sounds and add myself and then read the script. And it's kind of hard to read, actually, because it's so, it's from the 30s. It's written in a 30s way. You kind of talk in a 30s way, and I don't talk in a 30s way. Yeah, this is super difficult. So apologies to anyone listening right now, either outside of the booth or at home someplace, listening and trying to decipher what the hell they just heard. It was a failed attempt at a sort of what do you call those things? What do you call the things that you give to people? A tribute. A tribute to Orson Welles. Incredible. Great work. Let me know how I did. In some way. I'd love to know how bad I am as an actor. As at least a voice actor. Not very good at that. Man, student radio, isn't this a great thing? You know, you can do all these stupid things, and there's no penalty for when you fuck up, aside from, you know, your own ego. You know, it's not a job, you know, so there's no one to get mad at you. There's no one hollering on your back to do certain things or to play certain songs or to you know, not do certain things. That's kind of nice. Thank you, WPSR, for being such a lovely place for me to do things. I'm sure without you I would be doing something else, probably productive, but this is equally, if not more productive. It's a good time. WPSR, it's a great place. Now for the next 7 minutes, because my broadcast for the War of the Worlds ended much sooner than expected. So now we're just here listening to modern baseball. I wasn't planning on this, you know. Modern baseball, like they're an alright band. They're pretty cool. They're a solid choice if you want some feel-good music. But just generally, it's not the way you want to end. Yeah. Man, I don't know. What do people like listening to? I don't really know what people like listening to. I know what I like listening to, and I know how to make a sort of decent playlist of songs to sort of give out a mood. But you know, just off the top of my head, I can't just put things out there. You know, there has to be some sort of like theme or message behind it, you know? Like I make mixtapes, but there usually is like a theme or a message behind them, so I can tie it all together. So like one time I made one about love, and I put a bunch of love songs, but it's like they're all different variations of what the idea of love is. So it was an interesting one at the very least. So, you know, that was good, but then again, I'm not here. Oh, what's this? That's an interesting idea. And I'll try that. A friend of mine told me about this one song. I kind of hate it, but it's oh, whoops. Wait, what is this? What the fuck is that? Is that me? What is that? Oh, that's my laptop. Oh man. Whew. And if this was my job, I would totally get kicked out. Oh man. Jeez Louise. Oh man. Oh my god, wow. I have a terrible... So this is Trust Fund by Titan Sinclair. So we have you can't see it, but imagine a skinny white guy with sort of lopsided hair, you know, short lopsided hair. He's on a green screen, and there's 3 of him in the foreground, and there's like a billion of him in the background playing guitar, and behind him playing guitar is a bunch of colored pills. And he's wearing a floral shirt and some black jeans. And the lyrics go, hold on, right now. With a brother and a sister and a mom and a father, and we will all get along. And we pick money off our family tree and spend it all happily. The point of the song is like I'm a trust fund kid. This is my life. It's a hard life because sometimes I have to work, and my dad is such a jerk. Isn't that terrible that I have to work for my money? I guess, you know, if coming from like a 20th century point of view, you're like, what? Yeah, of course you got to work for your money. That's how it works. But, you know, the 21st century, because our parents work so hard, we can work a little less. And eventually our kids will work a little less, and their kids will work a little less. And eventually no one will be working, because, like, everyone will be poor and wealthy. That might be sort of great, but then the morality of, like, working for a living is probably going to be gone. And, like, no one's going to work hard. And probably the world is going to end as we know it. But now I'm just getting sidetracked. What do you guys think of this sound? I don't know. I like his vocals. I like the lo-fi sound, and the guitar is pretty good. But I hate this message. Hate it. I don't know. I'm very against money, and I don't like this thing. What do you call this? You call this sort of bougie in a way. You know, it's like, I have money. Well, like, I guess flaunting it would be sort of bougie. But, and now he's just dancing around with the mic. Very edgy. But, you know, this man, I hate money, honestly. I hate spending money. Like, you could call that cheap, but I call it like giving in to a system I don't want to give into. It's a weird time to be alive. It's terrible sometimes. I randomly just, I don't know, I'm on YouTube now and just playing songs. This is Best to You by Blood Orange from Freetown Sound. That's the name of the album, Freetown Sound. Looks pretty cool. I might check this out later. It sounds pretty good too. It's pretty chill. So, anyway, this is a new show, Who Dis? I'm Michael, and I'm going to sign out because I've been here too long and I want to go home because I have things to do. Thank you for listening, and thank you for not listening. Have a great day. Here's Blood Orange.